Good morning, everyone. Welcome to class number 2. I'm Dr. Lulu Shimek, the Medicinal Plant Director here at the Veterans Healing Farm. And this is the second class in our 6-week virtual workshop series where we'll be exploring herbal medicine for mood, specifically anxiety and depression. Next week's class will feature aromatherapy for immunity with Adora Lindquist. That's on Saturdays at 10 o'clock. And I'll be teaching plant medicine for immunity on Monday at 10. And you can find out more details at veteranshealingfarm.org/workshops. All right, let's get started today. I posted the PDF for you in case you weren't able to download it from the website, and it's over in the chat box. I've muted everyone. We'll have a time at the end of the workshop for Q&A, so make sure you write down any questions you have as we'll be going along. And if you have any problems, if you can't hear me or anything like that, just put a little comment in the chat box. Can everybody hear me now? I can't really see videos with people. Let's see. Maybe people don't have their videos set. Let me just check on that. Everybody's good. I'm just doing a little housekeeping here, make sure that we have everybody that wants to be in the video can see everybody. Great. Okay, people are starting to come in now. Wonderful. Okay, so if you have any questions about anything during the class, just put it over in the chat box. I'll be recording that chat as well, so that allows me to go back and see questions. Also, please introduce yourself. We have people from all over, and it's just great to say hello. It creates that kind of community in our virtual world. Also, if you need to contact me, I put on the little video that was circulating, there's my email there, so you'll be able to see that as well. Okay, so let's get started. So today I'm going to be talking all about herbal medicine for mood, which is a great topic. You know, it's one of my favorite things to talk about with herbs because we have so many. Today I'm just going to be focusing on 3, basically really like one herb, and I'm going to highlight 2 others, and I'm going to be showing them to you. We're going to be talking all about them, as well as making a tincture at the end, so that'll be really fun. Okay, so let's talk about Tulsi first. I brought some plants home, some plants I have from my house. This is Tulsi here. You know, one of the things about herbal medicine is it's really great to meet the plant. And some of you might not have a garden or have one near to you. So this is Tulsi. Hi, Tulsi. And so, you know, what wonderful thing about Tulsi, if you haven't met Tulsi before, is it smells so beautiful. It's like, smells like basil, but like in a sweeter way. We're going to make a tincture with the Tulsi today as our highlight plant, but we're going to use the dried herb, which might be easier for some of you if you don't have it in your garden. One of the reasons why that is because I was going to bring a bunch home from the farm, but it doesn't really do well unless it's kept in its soil. So I'll be showing you that. Let's just bring Tulsi. We'll keep Tulsi over on the side with us. So Tulsi is one of the main important herbs of India. It's a symbol of Hinduism, and a lot of people will have it on their altar as a sacred plant. And it's a wonderful aromatic plant as well as a healing plant, which we'll find out during the lecture today. Tulsi is mentioned as one of the main pillars of herbal medicine in ancient Ayurvedic texts. Some dates back to 5000 BC, which is just amazing that an herb can be that far back in history. Its name is derived from Sanskrit, which is the Hindu language, meaning the matchless one. And I always think of that as like, there's nothing that compares to Tulsi. As you'll see, it has so many benefits, and it's really easy to grow and a wonderful addition to your medicinal garden. And if you would like, I have a handout of my top 10 easiest herbs to make your own medicinal garden. And if you want that sent to you, just let me know in the chat box, and I can send that at the end of class today to you. Back to Tulsi. So the Tulsi is like reverent to a goddess, and it's so prolific. It will grow if you just plant one little plant outside. You'll just have this amazing abundance, which is part of its medicine. And let's talk about the part of the plant that you use. So in Tulsi, you'll see it has these little purple flowers, which are so beautiful. We can use this part of the plant. We can also use the leaf, and those are the main parts I like to use, but you can also use the stem and the root as well. So we really can use the whole plant, but I find that using the leaf and the flower will provide you the most potent medicine. And it's really easy to make a fresh tea, or you can dry it as well. The smell and taste of it, as I said, it's very aromatic and sweet and bitter. And it has lots of constituents, which I put on your handout. All plants have constituents which give them their strength and power. And also the vitamins, it's filled with vitamin C, beta carotene, calcium, zinc, magnesium, lots of chlorophyll, as most plants have that, you know, their green, vibrant leaves. And one thing about the Tulsi particularly is it's eugenol specifically, and due to its significant amount of this particular component, research suggests that Tulsi may be a COX-2 inhibitor. And what a COX-2 inhibitor is it blocks the COX-2 pathway, which is one of our, aspirin does this. It's an anti-inflammatory, just like essential fatty acids. So Tulsi is not only great for anxiety and mood and depression, as we'll find out today, but it also is a great anti-inflammatory. So it's wonderful to add into your regular anti-inflammatory mixes. Many of the plant's most prized benefits are directly linked to this eugenol, and its positive effects are on the immune system, the gastric or digestive system, and the central nervous system, which is why we use it so much for mood. So dosage, I put this on your handout as well. And so if you're going to make a dried herb, and I showed you on the intro class, this is the dried form of the herb here. And you can use 1 ounce. Of course, you can use less, but with Tulsi, what I always recommend is making a bunch, because you can just stick it in your refrigerator, have it as an iced tea, or warm it up later. And you want to take, so if you take 1 ounce, you want to steep that for 30 minutes, but you can do it up to 6 hours. So it's a lot different than, let's say, like a green tea. You wouldn't want to steep that for a long period of time because it gets too bitter. But Tulsi, you can just steep it and steep it and steep it, and it becomes more concentrated. And with that concentration, you can always dilute it. You could add it to your water, or you could mix it with other herbs for helping with stress and anxiety. So you can strain it after you make that infusion and then drink it and store it. It can be stored at room temperature, or you can store it in the refrigerator for 18 to 36 hours. So you want to drink it like in that 3-day period for sure. So let's talk about the medicinal actions of Tulsi. All plants have medicinal actions, well, all herbs specifically have medicinal actions, and that means the main things that the plant is highlighted for. So it's an alterative, an analgesic, antibacterial, so great right now as we're really moving into flu and cold season. It's an antidepressant, antifungal, antiviral, antimicrobial, anxiolytic, which means it helps to fight anxiety or nervousness. It's a cardiotonic, great for the cardiovascular system. It's a carminative, good for the digestive system. It's a demulcent, which means it kind of like soothes the digestive tract and the inside and any mucosal organs. It's a diaphoretic, helping us sweat when we have the flu. We want to sweat out toxins. It's an expectorant, helping us to expel mucus from the respiratory tract. It's an immunomodulator, helping to balance the immune system. A nervine, helping to boost the nervous system, and a radioprotective. So wow, right? I mean, this plant is amazing. It has so many properties. And one of the reasons I wanted to highlight this plant for all of you watching in this series is it's really an amazing plant to bring in right now due to COVID, because it's going to boost immune system, help with the mood, and then also help with that kind of like fallout of COVID as we're moving through and people are having a lot more stress. It helps the nervous system to adapt. It's an adaptogen. So it helps us to adapt to longer term periods of stress and have more resiliency. So let's talk about how it's used is for the mental and emotional body. So this is really where we're focusing on the mood aspect. So it really helps with mental stress. And you know, stress can build up over time, as we're seeing, especially with COVID and other areas of our lives, of course, but it can build up due to many things. It can be an environmental stress like pollutants, or it can be a work stress in your job. It can be family stress. It can be health stress. So Tulsi will help your body to adapt to the mental stress, especially long-term, leading to a lot of times can lead to more anxiety down the road. Like it's kind of like, you know, the the mushroom effect. It just builds. And we want to make sure that we're dealing with stress right on. And recent studies have also shown that Tulsi is not only great for reducing stress and anxiety, but for depression. And on a side note about mood disorders in general, if you're having a lot of anxiety and depression, please seek out professional help. We put some resources, I think, at the end of your handout, but remember that it's an important time period right now to seek out professional help. Of course, herbs and other nutraceuticals are very helpful during this time, but if you need professional help, please seek that out. So back to Tulsi. So again, Tulsi is great for depression and anxiety. And one study showed that it actually reduced overall stress scores, sexual disorders, and sleep problems. So Tulsi can help if you're having a lot of insomnia due to stress. So that's a specific type of insomnia, right? You like wake up and you have those ruminating thoughts. So with Tulsi, it can help reduce those symptoms as well as help with exhaustion, because it's helping you kind of that resiliency to bounce back. And when you're having those, let's say those circles of stress happening in the system, your body will have more and more kind of like overall the fatigue, right? So a Tulsi will give you that extra push and that little bit of energy, which is great to help you adapt to stress. So from the energetic perspective, it's a warming and cooling herb. It's almost like kind of like peppermint. If you guys know peppermint, it has that warming and cooling quality with a sweet and pungent flavor. And because of this, Tulsi is indicated for like really those cold and congested, the stuck conditions. So it's like when you're wanting things to move around in the body and get things flowing. As a nervine, so when I say the word nervine, that means any herb that's good for the nervous system, and Tulsi is one of those. As a nervine, it's initially stimulating, so it's going to start to stimulate the nervous system, but then it follows with this like blanket of calm and helps you to feel grounded and connected to the earth, which is so important right now in these periods of undecisiveness or unrest, or we just can't figure out kind of what's going on around us. So it really helps us to stay grounded. It also really helps to open up the heart. And that's one of the reasons, again, I wanted to highlight it today. You know, even with the little flowers, they're so sweet. And if you get a chance to meet the plant in person, you just feel like enveloped with its love. It's just so wonderful. It helps to encourage devotion and gratitude, and which is why one of the reasons, as I mentioned earlier, it's used a lot in Hindu traditions because of that. It's also considered to be energetically supportive of space for prosperity. So if you're thinking about putting it in your garden, it's one of the reasons why it's so abundant, but it's really wonderful because it can create a space of abundance and prosperity. So I always recommend putting it in a space where you can look out and see it, or sit in a nice chair and have it surround you and enjoy its abundance. So it's also really great for specific chakras. So chakras are energy centers in the body where you can meditate, and those energy centers will connect to our emotional, physical, and mental being. And it really helps us as a harmonizer, meaning that it really restores balance to the chakra system. So sometimes, you wake up and you have feel like kind of, like spun out, like, what happened in the middle of the night? Or even if you're having a hard day, it's like you feel like, knots in the stomach. So sometimes those chakras are wheels. Those wheels can start to spin kind of like off balance. So from an energetic perspective, the Tulsi will help bring that energetic body back into balance with a sense of harmony. And let's talk about some of the physical uses. So it has a lot, so I'll go through each of those kind of more in detail. And its most common use is a soother of the nervous system. So again, that calming effect. So when you're having a lot of anxiety, this is going to be your go-to herb to really help calm, especially for long-term stress and anxiety. It's really going to help lower stress from a physical perspective and from a mental perspective, really helping to lower cortisol levels. And you can just drink Tulsi throughout the day, like I mentioned in the beginning of the class, or you can even make it as a tincture and use it more as a medicine, which I'll talk about as well. Teas are great and I love them. They're not going to be as potent, but they're so good to just drink throughout the day and give you this wonderful kind of slow moving medicine throughout the day. Of course, if I usually recommend to kind of turn that switch off as you're moving in towards the evening time, because you don't want to have the bladder be overactive when you're sleeping, especially if you have insomnia, because then you'll get up a lot through the night. So drinking Tulsi through the day can help calm your system and keep your body running more smoothly. It's also really great for skin conditions. And during times of stress, a lot of times our acne will flare up. If you have a history of acne, that's usually a lot to do with the digestive system and stress. So it will help kill bacteria actually on the skin and help with those infections. And you can use it topically. I like to use it like as a spray, as a toner for the skin. And you can also use it internally as well for acne. It also helps protect against diabetes. So for the endocrine system, it will help balance blood sugar. It's not one of my go-tos for balancing blood sugar, but because of its sweetness, and even if you're adding, drinking it throughout the day, it will help balance the endocrine system. It helps fight against cancer. So that's a great thing to do as a preventative standpoint, similar to green tea. It has a lot of antioxidants. It's not the highlight. I wouldn't put it as a go-to, but when you're putting it into formulas, let's say you're going to be making something as a cancer protective, this is a great formula to add in because of its tastiness and its adaptogenic qualities, helping to deal with stress. It's a great hormone balancer for, especially for female hormones. So if you're looking for a remedy to help with menopause, with hot flashes, or even to help balancing to mix with other herbs such as Vitex, which is chasteberry, another great herb to help balance hormones, this is a great one to add in. As I mentioned earlier, it helps relieve fever. So it's a diaphoretic, helping the body to sweat. So this is a great one to know as we're moving into that flu and cold season, helping to be an immunomodulator, helping to balance the stress, but also if you're, when you're on that edge and you can feel flu or cold starting to come on. So this will help your body to sweat and to get out the flu, because we don't want to suppress a fever. Of course, if it's really high, we want to stop that. But when our body has fevers are good. It helps our body to release toxins. The actual aspect of Tulsi, that diaphoretic quality, will help your body to sweat and release the toxins, ridding the body of the virus and bacteria, because we want to sweat and get that temperature up to actually allow the body to release that virus or bacteria. It helps improve respiratory disorders. So it's great, again, as I mentioned, it's an expectorant. So it has caffeine, eugenol, and cineol, which help provide relief from congestion. So really great to add into a respiratory formula as you're moving forward into cold and flu time. It's a wonderful source of vitamin K. Vitamin K and vitamin D are really, really important for depression. So vitamin K is more for clotting. It's important for healthy metabolism and cellular health. But vitamin D and vitamin K are important together. They're synergists. And vitamin D is one of the main nutraceuticals I use for patients with depression. A lot of people have a vitamin D deficiency. So using Tulsi will help your body absorb vitamin D more efficiently and get it into the cells. So it's a great one to add in. It's also wonderful for headaches. So if you experience a lot of headaches, lots of people have stress headaches or tension headaches, especially, those in the back of the occipital region at the bottom of the base of the skull. Tulsi will really help relieve those tension headaches. And so I recommend if you have migraines or a tension headache, you can kind of feel that coming on, drink the Tulsi right away, get that into your system to help relieve that. Just as a side note, contraindications, I'll be talking about contraindications for all plants as we move through the next couple weeks. Sometimes people can have digestive distress with Tulsi. It's a strong plant, so if you're using it in really, really large amounts, just be cautious of that. It's really unlikely, but it can happen. And also, because I mentioned the vitamin K, if you're taking any anticoagulant drugs or pharmaceuticals such as warfarin, you want to make sure you're using caution with that. And anytime you're going to start using a medicinal plant in quantities or in general, it's always good to check with a healthcare provider in case there's any contraindications with other pharmaceuticals or anything else you might be using. You also want to be cautious if you're pregnant using this herb. There's a lot of herbs that are contraindicated for pregnancy, and this is one. Okay, so let's talk about how to make a tincture before I introduce some of the other plants. Okay, so I'm gonna show you basically how to make a tincture using the dried plant matter. So super easy. I talked about in the intro, but those of you that are tuning in, you'll get to learn now. So I'm just going to use a little bit. So dried plant matter, you of course want to make sure that it's nice and green. And if you've dried it yourself, it doesn't have any mold. You want to remove any foreign plant matter, right? You don't want to have something non-medicinal going into your container. So I'm just going to use a small container here and fill it up there. You don't want it to be super packed down. You want it to be light. Like I always talk about it with people at the farm, like a little fairy bed where if you're going to lay on it, it wouldn't feel like a packed mattress, because you want the matter, we're going to use alcohol today, to be able to flow through the herb easily. I'm going to use Everclear to make the tincture part. Everclear is just a really strong alcohol. You can use other forms if you prefer, or you can use a non-alcohol form, which we talked about last week. Glycerite, we'll be making those, and then vinegars was mentioned, and I'll be showing those, just not today. So then you would take the alcohol, whatever you're using, and then you're going to pour it over the plant matter. And you want to make sure that it covers the plant matter. So if you guys can see that. So I've covered the plant matter completely. And what I like to do is then put the lid on the container. Always use a glass container because it's an alcohol content. You can use a darker one if you want. I've used clear here. You want to let it sit for 4 to 6 weeks. You can shake it after you add the alcohol, and then the first day you want to come back and check it. And the reasoning behind that is because the herb, especially dried, has going to absorb the alcohol, and you're probably going to need to add a little bit more in there. So you want to make sure you do that. So you want to label it. What was it that we put in here? We put Tulsi in. We want to put the date that it was, what form of herb, if it was fresh or dried. We want to say what type of alcohol we used, and then the date, and then put it away in a dark place where you remember where it is. But tinctures are not going to go bad in this form. You could even, not strain it for like months and months and months, which is fine. So if you forget about it, no worries. But at some point you're going to want to use it, right? Especially now, this is a great time to make it, because you're going to, it'll last you for a while. You can make as much as you want. This is a small amount. So after that 4 to 6 week period, of course, if you do longer, it's going to be stronger. You're going to strain it so that all the particle of leaf is out of the tincture or the alcohol, and then what's left behind is your tincture. You'll rebottle it in a nice sanitized container and then label it again. So that way you know what it is. I usually recommend for dosage for tincture of Tulsi, 2 to 3 dropperfuls, which is about 15-30 drops, depending on the size of your dropper. Or that's about 1 teaspoon. So 1 teaspoon, 2 to 3 times a day, depending on your stress level. You know, if you're having a lot of stress, anxiety, depression, I would recommend using like 3 teaspoons 3 times a day for probably maybe 2 weeks at least, till you're starting to feel some results, and then you could back off on that a little bit, or you could use it kind of as like a booster. Sometimes I'll have patients use it just like, you know, hey, I'm feeling a little bit extra stressed today, and then taking some, okay? So that's our tincture. Super easy, right? So you could do the same exact thing with the fresh herb. I'm not gonna show you how to use it because I don't wanna kill my plant, but I'm gonna show you with lemon balm. So you would take off the fresh leaf and the flower off of the stem, and then do the same thing. Put it in a little container, and then, so let's do that with the lemon balm. Let's talk about lemon balm first, so you can meet the plant. So lemon balm, Melissa Aficionalis, is a beautiful plant. You can see here, it looks a lot like mint. It's in the mint family, the Lamiaceae, and it has alternating leaves here. And it, you know, definitely, if you're going to plant it in your garden, it will grow really, really well. Plant it far away from mint, so you can tell the difference. I recommend putting it in a pot because it will take over your garden really easily. Same with Tulsi, you can do it in a pot too, but it's really easy to grow, and I would definitely recommend putting this one in your top 10 plants in your garden next year. You could still put some on your porch now, but you know, we're getting to the end of the season. So it's a hypnotic. It really helps to calm the nervous system. What I love about lemon balm, of course, it's aromatic. It just makes the most wonderful tea. It has that lemon flavor, and it's really good for SAD, seasonal affective disorder. So, you know, some of people here in Asheville, we don't have as much of that. We have a lot of sun, but I came from Seattle before I moved here, and I was really affected by the clouds, and some people just have that in general. So this is a wonderful plant that you can add in. It boosts the mood. It's just like so happy. And what I really like about it too is it really helps to open up the 5th chakra. It's really great for communication. I always recommend making lemon balm tea if you're working and you're going to have a meeting, because it'll help everybody to talk openly about what they would like to express in a nice and happy way. So lemon balm is also an antispasmodic. It's really great for digestive spasms or cramps, any type of spasming muscle, and also digestive disorders as well. So let's make a fresh tincture. So you're gonna so it's super easy. I'm not gonna do the whole thing, but you just take off the leaves of the plant. Let's see if you guys can see me doing that. Let's see if I turn this down a little bit. So you take off the leaves of the plant here, and then you're gonna put them again into our nice jar. So let me take off a few more. Super easy here. Okay, so you would put them in your jar, that would be full, and then you would add alcohol again. I'm not going to show you how to do that because we just did it. But same thing, you want to always make sure the leaves are completely covered. You don't want any oxygen to get to the leaves. It's not good for your tincture. And also, if you always want to make sure you're using a container. Let's say, for instance, I was using a bigger container, but I only had this much product leaf. It wouldn't be good because I don't want to have all that air. So you want to kind of gauge that as you're making a tincture. All right, so that's lemon balm. And then I also just put lavender here. So just to mention lavender, you know, lavender is so well known for relaxation, really important for mood. It really helps to stabilize the system. It's so soothing and it's so beautiful, right? Many of you probably know lavender. I picked this from my garden outside my house this morning. It smells so good. And it's really easy to make, you know, a sachet with a dried lavender, stick it under your pillow, but you can also use it as a tincture. And I really like to mix it into formulas. So you could take the flower, the same thing that we did now, and just make a little tincture of it. But on a side note, you probably don't want to use like a lot. It's really floral tasting, right? So you don't want to make your tincture just taste like a big flower. It can be intense. But lavender is really calming and uplifting. Its fragrant aroma is great, again, for headaches. So you could combine it with the Tulsi or the lemon balm for a wonderful headache formula for relaxation. You can also make a nice oil. I'm going to talk about how to make an infused oil in the upcoming workshops. So you could make an oil for this and, you know, use it as an aromatic after your bath. You could add it into a nice salt bath. So lavender has a wonderful amount of uses as well. All right, well, that's our end of our talk today. And it goes so fast, doesn't it? So I'm gonna open everything up and for any questions that you might have today. And then just as a reminder, next week, we're gonna be talking all about the immune system. So that is gonna be so exciting. And I'm gonna be talking about the immune system on Monday, Plant Medicine for the Immune System, Monday at 10. And then Adora Winquist will be talking about aromatherapy, 10 o'clock on Saturdays. Such a great time for you to learn about things to help with COVID, as well as we're moving into cold and flu season. Okay, let me open up everything here. So I can unmute everyone. Does anybody have a question? Okay, everyone is unmuted, or I'm asking you to unmute. So if you have a question, you're more than happy to chime in. Does anybody have a specific question they wanted me to answer? I know I went over a lot of things quickly.
I'm not sure if you covered this, but is there a good way to like test yourself for allergies to the different plants?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Bo. So that's a great question. So if you know, I always recommend us try a small amount of a plant first. Now, if you're going to be using something topically, you could do a skin test, and that would be if you were applying, you could make an oil and apply a little bit to the inside elbow of your arm and then let it sit for 24 hours. That's a topical test. An internal test, like say for instance, you know, myself, I'll give a great example. I'm a little bit allergic to chamomile. It's in that kind of family where you can have a lot of allergies. So you want to try a little bit. Do a tea first. Make a nice tea. See how you feel. Do you have, you know, you have a scratchy throat? Do you have, are you having a runny nose? Are you having a change in your digestive system? So that would be a great way to start. I haven't seen a lot of patients that have allergies to tinctures, but it can happen. For instance, ashwagandha is an adaptogen. It's great for stress. This plant is in the nightshade family. And sometimes people that have nightshade allergies, like tomatoes, eggplants, potatoes, can have allergies to that specific plant. So that's a great question, Melissa. And you can just do a tea to test it and then see how your body responds. Did I get that question all answered for you?
Yes, thank you.
Sure. Anyone else? Questions, anyone? Okay, well, wonderful. If you put your email and let me know, I'll send out the handout I was talking about to you if you're interested for my top 10 favorite plants to plant in your garden. And this would be something you could probably start next year. Of course, you could have these plants in your garden inside, not your garden inside, but your plants, that some plants will last through the season. But, you know, most plants really like to have a really sunny, warm environment. So you can still plant them inside in little pots. But yeah, if you're interested in that, let me know. And then if you could please just put your emails over there in the chat box as well. We'll be sending a survey out at the end of the workshop series. This just helps us to keep track of how we're doing for the veteran community and to see how we can improve and do better next time. Okay, so I thank you everyone for attending today. It was a wonderful class, and I look forward to seeing you all again next week at 10 o'clock. And remember, this is recorded, so if you want to go back and watch it again, you can, and we'll be posting it on the Veterans Healing Farm Facebook page if you want to share it with anyone you think would benefit. And we appreciate you attending today. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.